Leslie Marshall is a radio talk show host from Cali. She joins us now for Happy Hour. Okay, Leslie, so I got to explain to our viewers what this whole nuclear option is. Apparently, I guess, back when President George Bush was trying to get some of his judicial nominees passed through Senate, the GOP said, okay, we're going to change the rules. You don't need the 60 votes. You need 50. And the Democrats back then were saying, that's a nuclear option. We'll now reverse the situation. And now the Dems are trying to cram through their legislation by changing the rules. This, to people, is going to sound fishy, just as it did back then when the Republicans were doing it.
Well, I would agree it does sound fishy. I mean, even though I'm a liberal Democrat, I'm not saying that the nuclear option sounds fishy because the Democrats are doing it as a liberal Democrat. But when you look at the polls, and they have been consistent for years now, that Americans don't have trust and faith in the Democrat or Republican Party very strongly, and in the House and the Senate, I don't know that it's necessarily a wise thing to do. However, why is it being done? And when we look at what Democrats are doing, and it's not saying to Republicans, well, you did this and I'm doing it now. It's not a tit-for-tat issue. They're saying reformation of health care is essential. They're saying we're going to do this with you or without you. We'd rather do it with you, but if you're not with us, you're against us, and we have the power with the nuclear option to push through what we want. I personally don't think haste is best. And I certainly don't think this is necessarily the best way. But for some reason, even though before a president's elected, you have Democrats and Republicans saying, yeah, we're going to play nice and we're going to work together on all this legislation. Yeah. When it comes down to it, it would seem on both sides, honestly, that they end up going back to their corners and stand with their party and their platform and the party of their president, which in this case is a Democrat.
But Leslie, I think this is the root of the whole problem with this. The notion that these guys are going to go nuclear and say this is what we want misrepresents what their constituents want. So these guys are going out basically man for man here. They're just in it for themselves. And meanwhile, all the people they represent do not support what they're going nuclear for.
Well, it really depends, because today a very interesting poll came out that was a poll about polls. And the poll about polls shows that the way the question is posed, for example, when you ask majority of Americans, about a public option, you don't get the same response if you say a public option of choice or the choice of a public option. When you put the word choice in, it completely changes the outcome of the poll. And any pollster knows it's not necessarily just who you're polling or what the issue is, but it's how the question is being presented. So I wouldn't agree that everyone is I wouldn't agree that everyone disagrees with the Democrats on a nuclear option.
But basically you're saying if I get a choice, I'm going to vote for. I'm with you if you give me a choice. If you don't give me a choice, I'm not with you. I mean, I think that's pretty black and white.
Leslie, I think one of the things...
I agree with you, but the problem... I agree, but the problem here is, guys, you've got to remember, just a couple of days ago, many people were saying Americans don't want a public option. So which is it? I think part of the problem here is, one, Americans are not educated enough on health care reform, A. B, there's so many plans out there. There's 4 in the House, there's 4 in the Senate, there's the president's plan. And then lastly, there's too much misinformation, which the president spoke to this morning on talk radio. Yesterday, he spoke to in a conference call with religious leaders, and he consistently talks to Americans have to decide, are they going to believe the guy or are they going to believe the protesters?
Leslie, here's what the issue, I think Tracy's hitting on something here, and that is this. As a liberal, I don't understand how you can embrace this Democrat platform. I understand liberal ideology, but having a 1,200-page worth of laws about health care written by a bunch of lobbyists is not a liberal solution. I want you guys as liberals to fight the Democrat corporatism, the Republican corporatism that's permeating that bill. I don't understand why you would embrace this bill.
Which bill are you talking about? You're talking about nuclear option. As I said, you've got eight plans entirely. If you're talking about one bill and you're saying that this is going to be the bill at the end of the day, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's going to be the bill at the end of the day.
Whatever bill we do have at the end of the day, I think you will agree, is going to end up being written by the lobbyists, and that's the problem.
Quite frankly, that's the reason we need reformation as the lobbyists. That's the reason current Secretary of State, then First Lady Clinton's plan went down the toilet. We all know that. You know, when they talk about death panels, the corporatists are our death panelists or holding the noose, quite frankly. I do agree with you on that. Let me tell you something. Although a liberal Democrat, I own a medical center. I'm married to a surgeon. So this affects me in many ways. Business owner, wife, my literal bottom line here, guys. But reformation is key, not cost reformation, the entire system reformation, and that you have to address health care. We're moving too fast, and I've said this before, but to just say we're not going to have a plan and to avoid the reality of what you're talking about, 6 lobbyists to every 1 senator, and to look at the reality, which is, you know, when a guy's making $13.7 million a year running Blue Cross or United Healthcare, they don't care about your care. They care about their bottom line.
Laws against United Healthcare.
Now the lawmakers are going after those CEOs of the healthcare, the insurance companies, saying, "Come on, how much do you guys make?" Leslie Marshall, we've got to end it there. Great discussion.
Okay.
Great discussion. We got to end it there. We'll bring you back for more Happy Hour.